hello, the fans of CPS or College Professional Studies at Northeastern University. Today we have Huy Lu here to talk with us a little bit. I shouldn't have favorite students, and I don't think I have favorite students, but I'm really impressed with Huy Lu as a student here at Northeastern and am appreciative of his work. Recently, we, through the college's effort and within the Lowell Institute School, put together a 4-part mini-series on student-produced Mentorship Matters episodes. From that, we've gained a lot of appreciation around our ability to tell stories. And Huy Lu, one of our students, a senior in digital communication and media program here at Northeastern under the supervision of Michelle Rigo, produced and put together and edited the Mentorship Matters series. So the last 4 episodes were totally student run, student interviews, student video, student editing, etc. And we were really excited about the product of that. Huy was in the background on all of that. And so after the video series, I wanted to give him an opportunity to come on and talk with us. And more than that, I wanted to give myself an opportunity to understand who he is and kind of where he wants to go and what Northeastern has provided to him in the form of an education and an experiential education. That's a long introduction. Huy, I'd love to invite you to introduce yourself and spend a few minutes. Tell us a little bit about your journey to Northeastern.
Yes, of course. And thank you, Mr. Cook, for allowing me this opportunity. I really appreciate it. So let me introduce myself. My name is Huy Lu. I'm an international student from Vietnam. I have been here at Northeastern CPS in the Digital Communication and Media program since spring of 22. I have been a photographer and videographer for roughly about 5 years now, and I have been producing content and trying to gain experience that way. So yeah, I'm very glad to be here. Yeah.
Awesome. And you're graduating in May, is that right?
Yes, I'm graduating in May, and this is my last semester.
Congratulations. That's an enormous deal. And
Thank you.
I'll be excited to celebrate the fact that you're graduating and moving into the world beyond Northeastern, which we hope has Northeastern has set you up to enter that world
Mm.
successfully through employment, etc. Can you tell me a little bit about what drew you to the field of digital communication and media in the first place?
Oh, yeah, of course. I started out doing media when I was in high school, and that's where my love for media, I think, has sparked. I started out doing photography at first, and then it's kind of like springed into many different projects that I just do on the side. And I think that telling it through a story is better. When I was growing up, there was this game show that was basically roughly translate is overcoming oneself. And in this game show, the premise is very simple. You will have it provide an opportunity for people with less fortunate background to participate in these mini game shows, and they would be timed for doing basic tasks like wrapping this bread or something like that, something that they are like do for their livelihood. And it was incredibly moving watching that show going up. And it was, I think that many of people of my background knows the show I'm talking about. It was incredibly moving watching that show because oftentimes the host of the show would extend the time that would require for these people to complete their tasks and win the prize with what was just a little bit financial aid for them to be able to go through their hardship. And I think that growing up by watching that, I think it really moved me into how strong storytelling could be. And that is a memory I always have since very young. I didn't find my I didn't it, you know it would sound cliche that, oh, I want to do that, I want to be like a filmmaker or like want to be a content creator from the get-go. It starts like that, and it just it's a spark, and then I found my passion for media ways later in life, and it just connects the dots, and here I am, I guess. But yeah.
I love that story. And
Yes.
before this, part of our pre-work was
Right.
talking about how you like being behind the camera, not necessarily on camera. And I would just say your storytelling on the camera right there, like I really appreciated that mini origin story. What though drew you? So lots of content creators, we watch in
Mhm.
social media and there's people that create content. And there's not always the story of who's behind the who's behind the
Mhm.
camera on the content. So
Mhm.
Can you talk to us about how where you're landing with what I think is a desire to be behind the camera, supporting content creation in all forms? Why is that a space you want to be in as you're thinking about kind of being in the world of storytelling moving forward?
I'm first of all, I think I'm not very much of a in front of the camera person.
Oh, stop it. I love
I
I think you're wrong on that, but
yeah,
I'll let you take that
yes,
conclusion for a
yes.
second.
I don't think I have that charisma. I think I have a little bit of a stage fright, but I feel like I have it connects to a different part of me that I'm also trying to figure out as I move through, college and stuff. Is I'm really interested in the technical aspect of cameras. I think cameras is one of the thing I'm really passionate about, and because of that, it's really hard for me to explain it. But in filmmaking, there's a list of priorities you have to follow, right, to make a great story. And the list have five factors in it. And the first factor is the talent. The second factor is the settings. The third factor is the place. Maybe the setting and place can be interchangeable. The fourth factor is the camera, and the fifth factor is the lens. So when I look at that and I look at who I am, I find myself to be very beneficial in the technical aspect. And so I look at that and I can best use my talent behind the camera. And if I can really do good what I do, then I will able to create content that, you know, inspires people.
This is amazing. I mean, we didn't talk a lot, but I'm just like walking into
Yeah,
questions here because
yeah,
of the way that you're describing your own passion and your
yeah,
own evolution in trying to become a storyteller and the idea of like
right.
thinking about where your talent fits in. Incredible. As you've gone through Northeastern,
Hmm.
I know you as a confident behind the scenes person, and I've watched you command some big spaces. Can you talk to me a little bit about your growth and confidence in your skills, but in also kind of managing an environment to produce something and how that has evolved really over the whole of your life? But I'd be
Right.
particularly interested in as you've been a student at Northeastern.
I think that my growth has changed a lot, and I have faced many challenges during that growth as well. And I think one of the biggest lesson that I can take away from the experience I have at Northeastern, especially Northeastern, because Northeastern allowed me such an opportunity to experiment, to and gain valuable experience. The most important thing is collaboration, because as much as I would like to have all the knowledge, or to know everything, I feel like at the end of the day, you couldn't really do much just by myself. And just like the project that we were on, that project requires a lot of collaboration from Dr. Rigo, from yourself, and from the other peers of my classmates to bring it to fruition. I could bring all the cameras into the studio I want. If I have nothing to shoot, then I have nothing to shoot,
Yeah.
you know. So at the end of the day, on the Eastern allowed me to allowed us flexibility for me to experiment, for me to learn through my mistakes and overcome my challenges and be a better person than before I went to the project. So I am really appreciative of that. So yeah.
Amazing. So for the Mentorship Matters is a series. If you're watching
Right.
this for the first time, we have 3 seasons of it. The first was with interviews with some folks in the field, in the
Hmm.
professional field, and some faculty and some
Hmm.
students. The second was directly with faculty talking about their program, and the
Hmm.
third was the season that Huy produced and edited, and that was with students of students, et cetera. It was awesome. I got to
Right.
sit in the studio while that was going on and watching the students interview each other, but Huy was really running the show along with other students in the program. It was really special, and I'll put these in the show notes so that people can click in and watch them. But can you tell me what it was like working on Mentorship Matters, and maybe also like what did you take away from other students' experiences within Northeastern while you were producing it?
Yeah, of course. I love working on Mentorship Matters, especially the third season where I get to produce it, because I love working behind the camera. But yeah, one of the things that I could take away was actually during the editing part, because during the production part, I'm still focused on many of these technical things that I usually get lost in the story. And that's why being an editor is kind of like a blessing and a curse, because you have so much, more work to do, but at the same time you really get to sit back down and comb through and actually digest the information it would present to you. And I think that one of the most awesome thing I learned was having a mentor and guidance is absolutely awesome because it's guys of these amazing people that would otherwise would not have discovered themselves if they don't have their mentors or the CPS program. I feel a little bit a sense of belonging because I came here from Vietnam, and I feel like if I feel like my hardship wasn't my own. Doesn't make it easier or it doesn't make it anything. But I feel like if it's shared, it's a little bit lighter. Yeah, because yeah, yeah.
That, I mean, super inspiring. Can
Mhm,
you tell me a little bit about the mentors that you've had at Northeastern? I think particularly Dr. Rigo, but maybe there's some other
mhm.
folks who've helped guide and mentor you along the way in your journey at Northeastern. And if you feel comfortable, I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I first and foremost, Dr. Rigo has been absolutely wonderful. She helps me to overcome. I'm not a, I'm not a perfect student by any means. You can ask Dr. Rigo all day, and she would tell me 101 thing that when I remember when she first came to me with this project, and then she's like, "How much editing you think is gonna get to take done?" And I look at Dr. Rigo because Dr. Rigo, I highly respect Dr. Rigo. I'm saying I will give you all the time you want for editing.
Wow.
And then she is like, "Okay." And then she give me this look because she already know that I might or might not be on time with my promise. Like I might deliver, but she's like the timing might be a little bit not off for me. And then she's like, she gave me that look. So I'm like, all right. But eventually I did deliver. So
You
yeah.
did more that you delivered
Yeah,
excellently.
yeah,
Yes, that's
but
awesome.
but yeah. So as much as I learned from mentor, I also learned a lot from my peers. I have this friend named Jonas. He's a graduate at CPS, so he wasn't really undergraduate, but I got to meet him through a club, a student organization in Northeastern called NUTV. And one of the beautiful thing about CPS is that I'm able to participate in all of these student organization without without feeling left out. I didn't feel like I'm not part of Northeastern or I'm not part of, the student college experience here. And as much as I learned from Dr. Rigo, I learned just as much from my peers, Jonas. And he's a wonderful editor. He teach me how to set up multicam. He was actually there on that day studio
Yeah,
helping me out on the background a little bit, and he was really good with audio. And yeah, so those experiences bring me great insights into what I want to bring with me into the workforce. Yeah.
amazing. Amazing. So you just said bring into the workforce.
Mm,
But what type of space? Think of yourself 10 years from now, and you think of
right.
you're a storyteller, and I love that
Mhm.
framing. What kind of stories do you want to tell in the future?
I guess this is gonna be a cliche answer, but
Cliche.
Martha,
There's a reason why cliches are cliches, right? Because
yeah,
they resonate.
yeah, they resonate. But Martin Scorsese's when the director's the movie Parasite, I couldn't pronounce his name right now on top of my head, but he was receiving an Oscar, and then he says that the quote that inspired him was actually from Martin, which says that whatever is the most personal is the most creative. So I feel like in 10 years, I hope that my experiences being, overseas working on programs like Mentorship Matters, I get to see all of these different experience, and I guess my intuition will guide me to a story that matters, that I think that matters. And if maybe that's not for everyone, I guess maybe that's not for the big screen, but that's what I want to do. And maybe 10 years from now, I would wish to continuing pursuing producing content that some way somehow inspires somebody elsewhere.
Hui, I'm glad I stayed on your case about coming on and doing this interview. I will tell you that. I am really glad that you
Right,
did this. Hui, I think your story and your communication incredibly inspiring. I would encourage
right,
continue to put yourself out there. The world needs storytellers like you. I love that quote about, what is personal is the most creative. And it really resonates for a lot of deeply personal reasons for me too. And so
right.
I love it. Can you do me a favor on
Hmm.
graduation day?
Hmm.
Can
Yeah.
you make sure you find Jonas and you find Dr. Rigo and you take a picture with them? And this is as much a message to
Right.
Hui as it is for all of our students.
Right.
At CPS, we have a lot of online program. We have some in-person programming. It goes back and
Right.
forth, right?
Hmm.
And it's a huge university, and something I regret about my own Northeastern graduation years and years and years ago
Right.
was I didn't do some of those picture taking moments at the end of my experience,
Mhm.
and then you kind of just go into the wilderness beyond that
Right.
because you're then in the real world. And so just encourage you as you're going through this, as you have mentors, make
Mhm.
sure you extend some gratitude to them, shake their hand, look them in the eye and thank them, but also capture that moment or a moment close by to that moment in
Right.
a photo, or in a
Mhm.
small video or whatever. I really think what you've described is very special, and I encourage you to capture that. And 10 years from now, please send me some of your storytelling about what you're up to,
Right.
and I'll be following your career along the way. I'm
Right.
excited about seeing you tackle the world from
Right.
behind the camera, maybe in front of the camera a little bit, but certainly
Right.
through what is personal and what is creative. If you were to give some advice to somebody coming into the Northeastern experience,
Right.
knowing what you have in Northeastern and the CPS bachelor's completion
Right.
experience in particular, what kind of
Right.
advice would you provide?
I think the Northeastern CPS allow you to build many more bridges than you think you're capable of. And I think having that flexibility, having that mentorship, I just reach out a little bit and just trying to experience it a little bit more fuller will will be a better outcome.
Lou, amazing. Loved hearing your transition from Vietnam into Northeastern and experiencing what Northeastern is. I love that some of the feedback you gave along the way to just that there's opportunity here at Northeastern. The most successful students kind of keep showing up, keep trying new things, and I love that your feedback. And for anybody listening, I think it really comes through,
Mhm.
about you need to have passion as a student for what you're learning to do, and love that
Mhm.
you represent that incredibly well. So thank you, and we that can kind of concludes this episode of Mentorship Matters or Student Voices of CPS, and really really appreciate everybody tuning in here and such an inspiring story. We great to have you here. Really appreciate it.